Diagnosing the ocean's sequestration efficiency using transport matrices built from climate model archives. This work was a collaboration with the following wonderful co-authors, and it was published last year in Geophysical Research Letters. A link is available on the online conference program. Imagine the following setup. You have injected CO2 into the sediments, and some of it leaks out into the water. The question we ask is, how long does water take to make contact with the surface? The naive solution is to simulate a dye that you inject on the seafloor and that you remove in the surface. This way, you can log the time that the dye took to reach the surface. It's the ocean's sequestration time. But that's computationally prohibitive. The problem is that this requires very long simulations, thousands of years, and if you want to map the entire seafloor, you must repeat the same long simulation for every grid cell location of your model. For most climate models, this means tens or even hundreds of thousands of simulations. Our efficient solution is a recipe with three main ingredients: periodic circulations, transport matrices, and adjoint boundary propagators. These ingredients have some caveats, but many advantages. With periodic circulations, the flow is seasonal but without any drift, which simplifies everything from computing to interpreting results. With transport matrices, we can tap into the powerful algorithms from the realm of linear algebra. And with adjoint boundary propagators, we can map the entire seafloor with a single tracer injected at the surface and time-stepped backwards in time. Why is this exciting? Well, it's because combined, these ingredients gave us a framework 10 million times more efficient than running the parent CMIP model. Now to the results. We'll start with a key metric of this study, the transit time distribution, or TTD for short. As a case study, we picked this offshore well location northwest of Australia, which is at 4,000 meters depth, right at the foot of the continental shelf. This in pink is the TTD at that location. The pink ribbon represents the range of the TTD across the 40 members of the ACCESS-ESM1.5 model's 2030s mean circulation, while the solid line represents the mean across members. The vertical bands and the box plots show the mean of the TTD. This right-skewed, long-tailed shape is characteristic of most TTDs. The mode is at about 500 years, while the mean is more than triple that. In grey, the same TTD is shown, but for the 2090s circulation. The grey TTD skews more to the right, and the mean transit time increases by about 30%. This is because with global warming under the SSP 370 scenario, the ocean warms and stratifies, and the deep circulation slows down. Now take a look at the sequestration efficiency, which is the fraction of water still sequestered after a given time. This is just the complement of the cumulative distribution function of the TTD. Note that the y-axis is reversed, so the efficiency starts at 100% and slowly decreases upwards towards 0. For this location, after 100 years, the efficiency is still 100%. No water has reached the surface. After 300 years, about 5% of the water has reached the surface for the 2030s circulation. And after 1,000 years, 30 to 40% of the water has reached the surface. As the circulation slows down, the efficiency goes up, so the grey curves are below the pink curves. Another way to look at this is to ask what is the time required for a given amount of water to reach the surface. This is the time it takes for the sequestration efficiency to decrease to 50%, that is, for half of the water to reach the surface. This is the median of the TTD, and just like the mean, it increases by about 30% with climate change. The power of our approach is that we can produce the same time series at any point with a single tracer. To demonstrate this, here are maps of the sequestration efficiency after 1,000 years. This is the mean over the 40 ensemble members. The regions in bright red show zero efficiency. That is, all the water has reached the surface. This includes the continental shelf, for example. In contrast, the blue regions represent high efficiencies. The most efficient regions are the North Pacific Basins, which are isolated from the deep branches of the conveyor belt. In contrast, the Southern Ocean seafloor exhibits rather low efficiencies. This is because the water there gets swept by the deep branches of the conveyor belt, which provides a relatively fast conduit to the surface. How big is this internal variability? It is on the order of 20% or less, as quantified by the ensemble range, which is the maximum minus the minimum sequestration efficiency over the 40 ensemble members. Now let's switch back to the mean time to reemergence. This is a map of the mean time to reemergence averaged over the 40 ensemble members. Consistent with the sequestration efficiency maps that we just saw, you can see long time to reemergence in the North Pacific Basins and much shorter time to reemergence in the Southern Ocean. Patterns of internal climate variability are similar, but the magnitudes are different. This variability is largest in the Weddell Sea Basin, and this is because in the 2030s, the deep water formation there has already shut down in some of the members. While there are many interesting things to say about those patterns, in the interest of time, let's move on to the effect of climate change. To quantify the effect of climate change, we simply took the difference between the 2090s circulation and the 2030s circulation. When we look at the change in sequestration efficiency, we see that climate change increases the sequestration efficiency almost everywhere. The increase is strongest in the Weddell Sea Basin. This is because the deep water formation in this region shuts down for all members by the end of the century. Interestingly, there is a decrease in efficiency in the Southwest Pacific Basin north of the Pacific Antarctic Ridge. This could indicate emerging connections to deep branches of the Antarctic circumpolar current caused by a complex reorganization of the deep ocean circulation rather than a simple slowdown. And this is a map of the change in the mean time to reemergence. Again, this is consistent with the change in sequestration efficiency, with a large increase overall, mostly in the Weddell Sea Basin. Time to move to conclusions. Water on the continental shelf reaches the surface rapidly. In contrast, water on the abyssal plain takes thousands of years to reach the surface. The effect of climate variability is generally less than 20%, but it can be huge if deep water formation changes dramatically. Climate warming mostly slows down the deep circulation and lengthens water transit by about 30%, but that transit can increase by up to 100% if global warming cuts connections to the deep branches of the conveyor belt. And finally, we think that these methods are very powerful and have a lot of potential applications. So what's next? If you're interested, check out the Transport Matrix Intercomparison project on GitHub. The biggest caveat of this study is that we used a single model, ACCESS-ESM1.5. In the future, we plan to explore more models. Applications of interests are carbon dioxide removal, carbon capture and storage, deoxygenation, the carbon pump, and deep sea mining impacts. But we also think that these methods would allow us to characterize ocean transport in general in CMIP models through tracers like the age, other ventilation tracers, paleo tracers, the time to reemergence, and the upstream exposure time, for example. Another very practical application is for the spin-up of tracers and for biogeochemistry parameter optimization. That's it. Sorry for not being able to be there, and I hope to see you next time.